What's up, people? Today we are doing Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Sorry I'm doing this so late. I wanted to do this earlier, but whatever. So, hold on. I'm grabbing something. Okay, anyway. Today I'm doing this. Tomorrow we're going to do Runaway, which is pretty bad movie. So I'm going in blind on that one. So it'll be a bad movie Thursday for the first time. But today we're doing Mask of the Phantasm. I remember watching this movie the first time and just being amazed by it. And a lot of people's eyes, this is probably the best Batman film. And I don't disagree with them. It's up there for me. And the fact that it's like an hour 16, it's essentially just the animated series as a movie. Like, you also get the backstory of Batman. Like, you get his backstory, his love story with Andrea Beaumont, the whole story of... Also, the fact that Batman, for this show, for this movie, it's almost the animated series if it was R-rated. There's not blood, but they basically mention that people are dead. Yeah, in this show, they do acknowledge people die, but obviously because it's a show... and it's on regular television, so of course they're gonna not really mention it. But people do die in the show, but they in this one, in the movie, they outright kill people. Like the Phantasm kills people. Like the opening scene is him, one of the gangsters running away from the Phantasm, and he ends up crashing to his death. Then there's another death when the Phantasm kills a couple gangsters, and there's a scene where Joker's gas, which in the cartoon, the gas just kind of makes you laugh maniacally, but in this, it flat out kills you because there's her dad, I don't remember the gangster's name, but it was he's the main head of the gang, and he's found dead, and he has the laughing gas, which is crazy because in the cartoon you don't actually see Joker kill people. Like the Joker gas just kind of makes you laugh maniacally in the show. So this is almost like the animated series if it went flat out full on adult. And obviously you even have the element of Batman kind of being framed for these murders, which is a nice interesting element. You get his origin story. They really do dive and go back into Bruce's origin. Obviously you learn he's in love with his woman, Andrea Beaumont. But also, while this is happening, he's trying to get in his early crime fighting days. There's even a part of the movie where you see him do almost his first taking down of criminals, but he doesn't have the bat suit yet. It's just him in a bird, almost like a ski mask and just a jacket. But he wanted to instill fear, so they really go into almost how he eventually figures out the idea for Batman. So I really think this movie's done well. The score is great. The animation, especially upscaled, is really fucking good. That opening credits where you're going through the city, and it's almost like a 3D render, because in the show it's obviously 2D, but to see a full on 3D a shot of the city is awesome. And yeah, I'm probably the thumbnail. There's so many thumbnails I could have used. There's a shot of Batman in the end when he's looking up and you see the bat signal. Then there's the shot, which I'm actually going to use for the thumbnail, where it's him putting on the mask for the first time, and it's him in shadow. It's such an iconic shot. Then there's a shot of him almost crying, or being sad because he's thinking about his relationship with Andrea when she first arrives back in the city. So, very well done film. It's only an hour and 16. I very much recommend it. You can almost watch it as almost it's Batman the animated series if it was an adult and they flat out acknowledge people dying, but also acknowledging, but it's also still that tone of the show. But obviously it's a movie, so there's a little bit of difference, but it's very well done. I love Mask of the Phantasm. Definitely one of my favorites. The plan is I'm going to try to do this on Tuesday. but I do want to do Batman Under the Red Hood. I technically watched it last week. I was gonna review it, but I kind of wanted to do this one first. Matt, like when you think animated Batman movies, this is probably the first one you think of. Mask of the Phantasm is so iconic. The design of the Phantasm, even though it's a one-off character, is so well done. I love the idea that the people mistake him for Batman, which makes sense. Is this guy in a cape who wears black? You kind of would think it's Batman on first fucking glance. That's what makes it work. And then the reveal that it's Andrea, you know, and she's a good character. That's a former love of Bruce's. It's done so fucking well. This is a great film. Very much a deep dive into Bruce as a character too. So, in a way, you can almost watch. I know Batman the Animated Series has the first episode, but you can almost watch this as the first episode of the Batman the Animated Series because arguably, it kind of is. It goes into his origin. It goes into like his past. Him at his younger years. So almost in a way, you can almost start with this. But you can also, I would argue, you can watch this by itself without watching the cartoon too. That's what makes this movie work too. Is I don't necessarily, I think it makes more sense to watch it with the animated series so you'll get everything. But you could honestly watch this by itself and be fine. Like, it's that good. So, overall, this is like probably a 9.5 out of 10, almost 10 out of 10 film. Like, I think it's perfect. It is definitely a perfect Batman film. If this was live action, my God, this would be cinema. So, I definitely can't wait, though, for next week. Under the Red Hood is... I love this one, but Under the Red Hood is probably... If I'm being objective, and I'm even counting the live action Batman movies, Under the Red Hood is probably the best Batman movie. Like, I love that story of Under the Red Hood. It's done so well. Jensen Ackles' voice as Red Hood. The only thing is, I wish Batman was Kevin Conroy, but it is what it is. Same with Joker. I don't love the Joker voice in that movie, but it's fine. I still love that movie. That film is incredible. That third act. Oh man, I can't wait to talk about that. But this film has a great third act too. When Andrea confronts the Joker, because we get the reveal that he killed her father, is done so well. Because even in the start, you don't get Joker. Joker doesn't show up till like close to the middle or the end of the middle, start of the end of the film, start of the third act. Like, he shows up pretty late in the movie, and then for his reveal, it's done so well. So yeah, I can understand why some people consider this a perfect Batman film. I don't disagree. I think it is a perfect Batman film. So, and the animation still looks really good, even though this came out back in '93. So, anyways, let's before we get into that, I think Thursday we should be doing SmackDown for Pin Down Podcast. Don't hold me to that though. If we don't do SmackDown Thursday, I'm assuming we're actually going to be streaming Saturday. So we should be either doing that or streaming Saturday. So subscribe to Pin Down Podcast. Tomorrow I'm going to be reviewing a movie called Runaway. I'm not expecting anything good. I like Tom Selleck, but Tom Selleck and Gene Simmons is already in a bad movie I reviewed a couple of months ago. So, oh man, and I saw a scene from this. I'm like, yeah, this looks pretty bad. But this looks like it'll be fun bad, though. So, I can't wait to do that. So, I'll be doing that tomorrow. Friday, I'll be doing Superman 78. Because I figured since we just did the live action Batmans, it almost makes sense to do the Superman ones, too. So, but anyways, let's get into Mask of the Phantasm. So the movie pretty much it kind of starts with an action scene. Batman trying to start one of the mob bosses, but he ends up getting killed when he gets confronted by the Phantasm. I'm gonna say it. The Phantasm. I meant to say, I gotta say, fucking A. I've got to say, Phantasm's entrance is fucking awesome. He has a perfect entrance. And it's crazy because there's a movie called Phantasm. So I'm going to call him The Phantasm so I don't like confuse it with the movie. But the Phantasm is such a great character. And the fact, like, it's not a character from the comics. It's not. That's the one thing I think the animated series in general did well is how like is introduced characters that are not actually from the comics. They introduced a couple. Like some villains from the show specifically um were basically not even from the cartoon, from the comics. And this is one of them. The Phantasm is not a character from the comics. I don't even know if I don't think Andrea Bermont's even an actual character from the comics either. I could be wrong. But if she is, she wasn't the Phantasm. She was just one of Bruce's exes. So they go through that like throughout the film because you get she's coming back. They think Bruce, obviously Batman did the killings. Well, while Gordon does, and the only thing, if I had not as like criticism, more of like I would have liked. This is kind of what I wish. I I wanted more Gordon. I do like that Gordon stands up for Batman, but he's not in the movie a lot. He's only in like the scene where in the start of it where the guy accuses Batman of being the one who did the murder because at the time all they saw was a guy in a black suit, and the gangster's dead. So, but I don't know. I would have wanted more Gordon because then there's like a scene later he shows up, but I feel like yeah, it was good he stood up for Batman specifically and saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna stay out of it." But I don't know. There should have been a scene with him and Batman later on, but it's fine. It doesn't ruin the movie. It's still iconic. I just little kind of one of those things. I just kind of wish they added. So Bruce and it makes sense too because this also explains obviously why Bruce isn't as like at least for the show isn't as attached to women because Andrea was the one he lost because this was shortly like around the same time he became Batman. You see it in flashbacks. When he first meets her, this is when he's at his parents' gravestone, and while he's there, he overhears Andrea talking to at her parents' funeral. Well, her mom's, because initially it's implied her dad's still alive, but obviously get the reveal later. Because initially Bruce thinks that the Phantasm, this is later in the movie, thinks it's her dad. But initially, this is when he meets her, and they start dating. And at the same time, you get a flashback of Bruce's, in a way, hold on, if you want to almost like call it his first mission, where it's like you see him, obviously ready to be Batman. But the problem is that he doesn't instill fear because even when he first shows up, they just think he's just some dude in a fucking ski mask. Because Bruce was just thinking, "Oh, I'm in a mask," but it makes sense. They weren't scared. They explain why they weren't scared. They're just like, "You're just some schmuck in a fucking ski mask." So they do struggle. He does kick their ass, and he manages to stop the one guy from leaving with the truck. But he even talks to Alfred. It was kind of cool seeing young Al. I love Alfred in this show, and I know this is a movie, but it's basically based off the animated series. And yeah, I love this Alfred in the show. He's so fucking good. And you see him kind of young, and he has a scene with Alfred where he's talking about they're not scared of me. Even Alfred acknowledged, but you still stop them. But he's like, but Bruce's mind, they weren't scared. In his mind, he's like, they need to be scared when he arrives, and that's kind of when he almost gets the idea for Batman. Then there's a scene later where you get another flashback where he's like training martial arts, and you kind of see him and Andre, and this is where you kind of get the first, not necessarily, you can kind of call, if you want to call it a hint, but it's almost like an idea that Andre isn't just some chick because she even manages to take Bruce down because she explains that she's trained too. So that's almost like, if you kind of like, obviously hindsight's 2020 after watching the movie, you could definitely see that's a sign that it could be her. That's almost it is her because she is trained. Because there's even a scene later where when Batman confronts the Phantasm, she takes him down in a way that she did earlier in this flashback. So I love when movies do callbacks, or even animated movies like this, which it's crazy because this is a movie, but it's only like an hour and 16. So it's almost like you can almost look at this as basically the animated series, just a long but longer. The animated series, the initial obviously show is like 22 minutes, but it's like almost like think of a couple episodes just pushed into one. But I really am cool with it being a little mini movie because I think they do a really good job. They obviously, because it is a movie, you do get almost like they definitely put a little bit more money into more shots of the city and 3D shots, by the way, not just like, oh, we're gonna do 2D like in the cartoon. So, um, then yeah, so Phantasm kills another gangster at a tombstone, and one of the gangsters that's with him thinks it's the Batman. So, and that's when obviously the city almost you do get a sequence where they do turn on Batman, the police, because while Batman's fighting the Phantasm initially, like this, like their first little fight, the cops show up and they start attacking Batman, and this is where you do get a scene of them chasing Batman, which was done really well. But um, so at this point, the police, not Gordon, but like the other police, have kind of turned on Gordon. I mean, on Bruce, and at this point, Andrea's back in town because she wants to do her dad's affairs, and I'm not gonna lie, one of her first interactions, because Batman sees her at the gravestone, but she knows it's Bruce because she heard his voice, and also because he was standing by the Wayne gravestone, so it's like she kind of put two and two together. But when he first talks to her, because I think this is when he initially thinks it's like her dad, and she refuses to talk to him. She says some cold shit. Because she kind of just says, like, oh, you can't get over the only person who can't get over your parents' death is you, Bruce. And it's like, damn, that stings. But then they do she helps him out, so they didn't hook up, and almost like he's toying with getting back with her. And this is where you kind of get another of them, the thing of them together, and then she finds her dad murdered. So this is where you get the reveal. Not that she's Phantasm, but he puts two and two together that the Phantasm initially thinks it's her, or it's her dad, because her dad's in the picture with all those gangsters, and her dad, in reality, her dad was killed by the Joker, because he was supposed to pay a debt and he didn't. That's when you get the reveal that the guy, there's another guy, the guy who basically throughout the film is accusing Batman of being criminal is actually a criminal. He's actually secretly working with the Joker. So Joker even kills the main head boss, because there's a scene where the Phantasm goes to his house to kill him, and he finds his body and you see him like just smiling and he's just dead. So, and this is where he has a video camera. This is, I think, the same sequence where Batman chases him and he confronts the cops confront Batman. So, and I think this is at this point he goes to her house and almost deduces that her father's actually been dead for a while. I love the detective moments in this movie where he's just putting two and two together and going through the clues. That's Batman to me. I mean, I would love more detective stuff, but I also understand to an extent you can't just have a whole movie of that, because there would be points where that's just going to be kind of boring looking. So I understand sometimes I get why. I'm not necessarily defending it, but let me know, I love the detective side of Batman, but I almost feel like that works better for like a TV show in general, like either animated or live action. I think the problem with the movie, if you just do an entire movie of him, there's a way you could do it, but still also have him doing the fighting, because that's where I'm like, I sometimes understand why the movies sometimes lean more into combat aspect and more the villain world of Batman than like the detective stuff, where there might be little moments he's doing, and I think each movie there's moments he does detective stuff. Like I think Batman Begins is a couple detective moments, even the Dark Knight, definitely in fucking I think BBS has a couple uh, detective moments. So I think each film, but I understand they don't uber go into it. I would love a film to. I understand the Batman tried to. I think it did badly though, but I can understand to an extent that can kind of be boring to watch. So I understand why they sometimes lean more into like the fighter aspect of Batman. And so Andrea, this is pretty much where you essentially get the reveal that Andrea's the Phantasm, because she confronts the Joker because he killed her father, and the Joker gets the best of her. He rigs the area he's at. He kind of rigged with like weaponry, and he's manipulating. Yeah, she beats him up a couple times, and that's the thing I've always liked about the Joker. Yeah, he'll take a beating, but he clearly has a couple of sets ahead of you, and that's what, because Batman, he manages to kind of lure into a trap where she's like almost like flowing into this because he has this giant fan, and it's like powerful enough to even carry a person. So she's almost like flow getting drawn into basically into the blade parts. Batman manages to save her. He tries to stop her from killing Joker, and don't go into that line. And then I'm just gonna jump ahead to the end where she seemingly almost kills Joker. Obviously, she doesn't. She just kind of takes him. But you do get the reveal later on that she's actually still alive, that she's back on the boat. Because the guy who was the guy who accused Batman throughout the film, who we do get the reveal later on that the guy reveals that he was working with the Joker, and basically Batman's name is kind of cleared at this point. And Andrea, I think she faked her death. Essentially, that's kind of what it looked. That's what happens because in the end, she's still alive. So I'm not gonna lie, this the way Bruce feels after an Alfred's trying to comfort him is really well done. As much as I love the cartoon, I understand the cartoon's a 20-minute show, 2-minute series, right? So I understand they can't sometimes go into the interpersonal relationships, so let's say as long as compared to like an hour TV show. So I understand why you don't necessarily get a lot of Alfred Bruce moments. That's the one thing I really love about this movie is the fact that you get a lot of Bruce Alfred stuff in this. Like, when initially she leaves, um, some of the flashback scenes, and then obviously the scene here, or is the end. Like, you get a lot of wise Alfred moments. And I'm not saying you don't get that in the cartoon. You do. Sometimes it's because it's a cartoon. Obviously, it's 22-minute episodes. So each episode, they can't always have an Alfred Bruce moment. So it's kind of nice to get in a movie. And pretty much it ends with Andre obviously still being alive, while Bruce pretty much continues being Batman. You get an awesome shot of him looking out, and you just see the bat signal in the distance. Awesome ending. I very much recommend this. It's only an hour and like 16. It's not a long movie at all. It's nice and quick. It's well done. I mean, I would say watch the animated series first, but in a weird way, you could watch this first and then start the animated series. Even though the timeline wise, it'd probably be after because he had been Batman for a bit. But I feel like this one more does go into his origin. That's kind of why, only reason I'm saying that, because you get a lot of his origin essentially. Well, his origin being Batman, not like the full on, like they don't go into the Wayne murders. They don't show that part of it. But you do get him like going from becoming a young Batman to becoming the Batman we get by the end. So I definitely think you could watch it in that sense. and it's just good. You know, the animation's great, the score's great. Kevin Conroy, you know, Mark Hamill as Joker. Some of their best performances were in this movie. I think down the line maybe I'll do Sub Zero also because that's a good animated Batman one. That's also tied with the animated series. Um, so I'll do that one maybe down the line too. Yeah, but Massive Phantasm is iconic, and the fact that they can make an antagonist to, well, I'll say slight antagonist because there's only a couple moments where I feel like that Phantasm's antagonizing Batman. Largely, Joker's still the villain. So, if anything, Phantasm's an anti-hero, just kills people. You know, so it's like I would have liked a little bit more of that too. Maybe go into like more of Batman's ideals against the Phantasms, but I get it's Andrea, so they didn't go into that aspect. I did love the story of they made you think it was her, you know, her father. They do it in a way where it's done well, you know. And I've seen a couple weirdos say, "Oh, people will call this woke now because the Phantasm was a chick." I'm like, no, this was actually well written. And the Phantasm's an original character. This isn't like a character based off of someone from the comics, right? This is an original character. So you can do what the fuck you want with it. And that's a lot of times all I'm asking for. And that's what makes this movie work. So I very much recommend this. If you want quintessential Batman the Animated Series, watch this movie. And then also obviously watch the show. But I definitely think watching this movie, you can almost watch it on its own, even. And I would still say watch the animated series because that's fucking incredible. But you theoretically could watch it on its own, and it could work. So 9.5 out of 10, iconic as fuck. One of my favorite Batman movies. Definitely one of the best animated Batman movies for sure. Obviously, for me, my number one is Red Hood. If I had a list, it'd be Under the Red Hood, this movie, probably Dark Knight Returns 1 and 2 are probably like 3 and 4. I love the Dark Knight Returns. I'll probably do those two. The Dark Knight Returns 1 and 2 live action animated movies. So probably do those down the line. But definitely this is like number 2. Number 1 is Under the Red Hood. But yeah, this is number 2. This is so fucking great. Sub Zero would be like 5. Or I don't know. I think this is what I'll do. I'll probably reward because Dark Knight Returns 1 and 2 could easily just be one part. So I'll just have that be my number 3. Then number 4 would probably be Sub Zero. But this one is fucking great. And I do want to do Sub Zero also though, because that's a great if you want another Batman the Animated Series related movie, that's a good one. And also if you want just a great Mr. Freeze story, that's a good one. So I'm gonna do that one. Maybe after Under the Red Hood. So not next week, but maybe the week after we'll do that one. So anyways, Master Phantasm is fucking iconic. It is awesome. R.I.P. Kevin Conroy. The shot of Batman, this is him holding the mask, and it's in shadow. You only just see a silhouette. You don't see full on Bruce. You hear him talking, but you just see a silhouette because they don't want you to see the suit yet. It's so well done. I love that shot. So that's going to be the thumbnail for the video. But yeah, I very much recommend this movie. Tomorrow, like I said, Runaway review. And then Thursday, and then Friday. Sorry, I'm fucked up right now. Friday, I'll be doing Superman the movie. And then the weekend, at some point, depending on when I see Heretic, I will be reviewing that. So that'll be a new movie review. And that'll probably be in my last new movie at least until... Oh, no, I am going to see Gladiator 2. I was going to say until Nosferatu, but I am going to watch Gladiator 2. And I figure I guess I got to review it, so... But anyway, but I'm like ready to call it here. Recommend this movie especially if you're just a Batman fan. There's a lot of just good Batman lore in this movie. And like I said, the fact that they could take a character who's new, like the Phantasm's a new character. This isn't like some original character that's from a character that existed already. It's not some pre-existing character. that was from the Batman lore. No, this is an original character, like brand new, and that's what makes it work. You know, and I think the animated series really did a good job of that because there's a couple villains in there that are new, that are original. Obviously, Harley Quinn is like the biggest one, but there's a couple of them. Obviously, not all of them caught on like Harley did, but that's like the Phantasm. If we're gonna be real, other than this movie, as far as I know, I don't think was ever in any other Batman movie. I don't know if maybe there's some comic out there where maybe the Phantasm was in it, but at least that I know of, the Phantasm is only in this movie. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm ready to call it here. Um, but yeah, like I said, tomorrow, Runaway, Thursday, Friday, Superman the movie. So, anyways, get ready to end it here. Pin Down Podcast, subscribe to it. But all right, y'all. Talk to y'all later. Peace.